Hi everyone. So I think third time will be the charm. Thanks for hanging tight as I am trying to add Tiara onto the Instagram Live from BLMP, one of our partner organizations. And just to give some background, Tiara is an organizer at BLMP, and we will be trying to bring her on. Let's see. Hope everyone's having a great week so far. Let's see. Thanks. I know the shirt's awesome. Think it'll work. Thanks everyone for the support. Hi.
Okay, I'm finally on.
Yes, it's so good to see you. How are you?
I'm doing wonderful. How are you doing?
I'm good. Instagram Live is hard sometimes.
No, right. Like I'm not good with technology as well, so pardon me out, but I'm here now.
I know. So glad we figured it out and so glad that you had time to just join us
Yeah,
today. So thank you so much. How are you?
I'm doing wonderful. I'm doing okay, actually. Thank you for asking and thank you for having us here.
Of course. Well, Tiara, if you could just tell us a little bit more about BLMP for people who are still just starting to join and just about your role as an organizer and kind of the journey that led you to becoming an organizer at BLMP.
Yeah, sure, definitely. So my name is Tiara Gendi, of course, and I do organizing work with BLMP. For those who are first timers here, the word BLMP simply stands for Black LGBTQIA plus migrant
They're
project.
watching,
Right. So
ancestors
what we do
watching. I know.
BLMP is to build and center the leadership of again Black LGBTQ people, right? And there's so many ways that we do this through community gatherings, leadership development, political education, and just like building the leadership of our community. And how I got to be part of BLMP, how I got to be organizing work with BLMP again. So I was born and raised in Zimbabwe, right down Southern Africa. And Zimbabwe is one of those countries that doesn't have any protections towards LGBTQ people. So just like trying to do that work advocating for my community back in Zimbabwe. Now fast forward, now living in the US. It's been 4 years of me living in the US now. So for most of us, when you're back in African countries or countries outside of the US is sold as this like maker for human rights where you can be protected and be able to celebrate who you are authentically, right? So coming here, I thought it was going to be an easier process for me to just live in my truthness and my authenticness and be able to be celebrated and pride that was the story, right? So when I got here and you're being an asylum seeker, then you realize like okay, even here, my existence is still pretty much criminalized, like the country that I came from, Zimbabwe, right? So it is that realization of saying, okay, we are in the US where everybody else gets to celebrate who they are and all their rights, and they're safe to do that, but not for Black LGBTQ migrants, right? So it was that realization that made me like, okay, let me look for other people who are like me and found VLMP. I'm like, okay, so there are other people who are like me, who share same stories like me, who are looking to create the same safe environment that I've been yearning for and looking towards to. And then I'm like, okay, cool, let's work together. And they've been like nurturing me and making sure that I grow into this work. So that's what we need to together.
Yeah, that's so great to hear in finding that kind of community and just like finding your people and in your role as
It's
an
gone out.
huh?
Your volume is gone out. I can barely hear you.
Oh, can you hear me now?
I
Can
cannot
people
hear you
hear
when you're
me?
talking.
Oh no, can people hear me? Can you hear me now?
I can see that you're talking, but I cannot
Yeah.
hear what you're saying.
Okay, let me try to fix my volume. Okay, testing. One, two, three.
Or maybe do I need or maybe do I need to get my headphones and try with headphones on?
Um, it might be my issue. Let me see. So it looks like other people can hear me in the comments. Um, maybe yeah, headphones.
Yeah, let me just try to get my headphones real quick. Because it might be maybe could be my end. So
Thank you.
yeah.
Thanks everyone for the help. Technical issues.
And I'm like, all right, let's try with headphones on. Maybe I might be
Yeah.
able to hear you now.
Let's see. Tiara, can you hear me?
Yes, awesome. I can hear you.
Okay.
So it was my fault.
Amazing. Yeah, no,
Apologies.
so just hearing about like your experience and what led you to BLMP, I would love to just hear more about your role as like an organizer and kind of like what that entails at BLMP on a day-to-day basis. Yeah, I would just love to hear more.
Yeah, sure, definitely. So within the BLMP structure, I am part of the steering committee, and I am also serving as one of their program associates for a project we are currently running, which is called Fierce Freedom School. Right. The Fierce Freedom School that we've been running is a school that runs to 1 month and a half to 2 months, where we are organizing Black trans women across the country, and just like they go through this like 1.5 months to 2 months of being taught different skills on how to do organizing work, different aspects of organizing work, and how they can also use their talents as part of their skills to do organizing work. So that's part of the projects I'm currently involved in, with also one other person who's also like co-creating it. We are co-creating together because it's a project that's collaborated between BLMP and Black Trans Circles.
Mm.
And outside of that, within the BLMP structure, again, I work with an awesome team just to create events around between I'm based in the DMV area, the Washington, D.C., Maryland, Virginia area. So it's just like creating programs for our community to make sure that there's some action and there's that connectivity so that people don't get to feel lonely, right? We're talking about migrant communities here. So many of us come here with no family. So we are the family we create for ourselves. So that's like what my day to day looks like. Either we're supporting people with their needs and connecting them to the resources that they need, or we're creating fun and interesting and interactive activity. You know, that's what my work looks like every day.
Yeah, I mean that's so important to be building community in that way, and I can just imagine that like this summer, and just like the past few months in general have probably
Mm-hmm.
felt kind of different, just like with the pandemic and a lot of the protests in solidarity with the Black Lives Matter movement. And I'm just curious to
Mm-hmm.
hear more about like how this summer feels different and what's come from it.
Yeah, definitely this summer is completely different for so many people, like for all of us, I'm sure. Because like how we usually center our programming at BLMP is we try to make sure that we're giving people the education that they need and the resources that they need. And also, we also try to make sure that people are also having as much fun as possible that they can have, right? So outside of the organizing work that we do like social events, like I said, and this summer not being able to travel into different spaces and different cities and be able to create that environment where people can come together and just like decompress with each other, has been definitely a challenge, right?
Mhm.
But also in a bigger way, this has not changed anything, right? Whether there's a pandemic or not, our existence pretty much feels like it's a pandemic every day. When you look at the criminalization that happens towards our bodies, being Black, being trans, being LGBTQ, and being a migrant, it feels like we are pretty much like surviving in a pandemic every day. So
Mm.
that has not really changed how our work or the demand of our work looks like. If anything, it has become even more, right? Because we are still trying to fight. We're still fighting to get people who are locked up in
immigration detention centers to be freed. We're still fighting to get justice for the Black trans people who are getting killed, and there's no justice for them every day. We're still fighting to make sure that the people within our community still have access to housing. Right. So that work is still happening every day. And this summer is not really changed any much because we're still in the ground, they're still in the roots trying to do that work and push for that work.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, definitely. And it's like with the pandemic, there's like on the one hand the sense that
Yeah.
like freedom is physically constrained, but there's so many
Yeah.
different like dimensions of like the idea of freedom in this way. And so when it comes to like
Yeah.
gender identity, gender expression, from your perspective, like what
Hmm.
does it mean to be free, to be you in this moment and just in your life, you know, in general?
Yeah. Thank you for that question. I love that question to say, what does being free to me looks like? And for me, being free means being able to thrive, right? Being able to thrive without me being targeted for any part of my identities or how I show up in a space, right?
Mm-hmm.
Me being able to thrive without being targeted for being Black, without being targeted for being trans, without being targeted for being a migrant in this country, right? And to talk about what that looks like and why that's so important for me, right? We're talking about people running away from their home countries, right? Their countries of birth where they were born and raised, and they've created lives and relationships and bonds with people. But because of who they are chased out of those countries. So they come to this country seeking that refuge, that safety. And then they get here, and then we have people like Zaza, right? A Black trans woman from Jamaica who's been in immigration detention center for close to 10 years now. What does freedom look like for her?
Mm-hmm.
Right? Because when I talk here, you're seeing me, Tiara, of course, but I'm only a representation of an entire community. What does freedom look like for Zaza? With this pandemic, when all of us have the luxury of locking ourselves in our home and quarantining, she doesn't have that.
Mm-hmm.
She's in a detention center, right? That's one of the campaigns that we've been pushing as BLMP to say we've been using the hashtag Free Zaza. We've been doing all the work, and people can plug into that work as well. So when you talk about what freedom looks like for me, freedom looks like me thriving without being targeted for any of those reasons,
Mm.
right? I've been a victim of that. Just riding at night with my then boyfriend, you know, we didn't violate anything, but we were put to the side by the police. You know, we complied with everything they were asking us. But how does just like pulling a car over and not telling us what we did wrong or what was done wrong, we've provided everything you have asked us for, turns out into 4 other police cars rounding us up
Mm-hmm.
and taking turns to say the same questions we've been asked by one police officer, it would go to the other same police officer and ask us the same questions. The other car would come, and the cycle goes on and on and on. So what does freedom look like for me? I want to be able to move around. I want to be with my partner without him being asked questions about whether I'm a prostitute or not, or whether I'm doing sex work or not, right? And there's so many sisters of mine who are also doing survival sex work. What does freedom look like for them to be able to do that safely without being targeted for it as
Mm.
well? Right. So it's a very loaded question to say there's so many ways I could tell you what freedom looks like for me and for my community. There are so many
Yeah.
ways of what freedom could look like.
Yeah. And just like the work that BLMP is doing, where you all are envisioning a world where all are free, and safe to be themselves. Um, you know,
Mm-hmm.
what keeps you hopeful that this type of future is possible? Yeah.
Just think, when we talk about the work that BLMP does, I am not going to lie, and I don't say this because I'm part of BLMP, but I say this from a place where I've benefited from being part of BLMP, right? This is an organization that like literally just started a couple of years ago, and seeing the assistance they and we have been able to give and the resources we've been able to connect our communities to with very limited resources, for me, I'm like, okay, so if all we really need is each other and we can put whatever little that we have and make sure that each other is safe and okay, then what we are envisioning is possible.
Mm.
It's possible. with a whole lot more support, of course. We need everybody to rally behind us, to hold our hands and work with us in realizing our dreams, right? Because one of the things that we envision at BLMP is, a world where there's no forced migration, where nobody has to leave their home because they are forced to, because of one reason or the other. And that can only be realized with everybody working with us, everybody taking an interest into the things that we're talking about and saying, how can I help? How can I help you? And there's tons of ways that people can help us into this,
Yeah.
into realizing that.
Yeah, and just with that being said, like how can more people from like the reading community and myself included continue to support the work of BLMP and just like the mission and the goal that and the better
Yeah.
world that you all are trying to create?
Yeah, definitely. It can be from as little as amplifying our messages, right? You can follow all our social media platforms, which is at official BLMP here on Instagram, on Twitter, on Facebook. All our handles are the same, official BLMP. So it could be just going onto our pages and see something that resonates with you, something that you feel called to share with somebody. It could be something like that. Or it could be finding campaigns that we are working on, like the Free Zaza campaign that we've been riding on, encouraging everybody. And actually for Zaza, she actually has a hearing, an immigration hearing tomorrow, right? So people could come in and jump on that. And another way they could support to amplify that, it could be calling the representative, right? The representatives at the detention center she's being held at in Colorado, and being calling them, emailing them to say we're demanding this person to be out. That's a way that people can help us. And also another way is they can also go to blmp.org, right, and donate whichever amount they can to push the work, right? That's another way. So there's multiple ways people, you can just find something you get called to engage with us on different levels. It could be when we finally are able to go outside and do events and you want to come and volunteer and spend a day with us, hang out and, get to know more about us in person with us. That there's different ways to connect with us and be able to amplify our messages and our work.
Definitely. And for those who aren't familiar with Zaza's story too, I'll be sharing on Reing's
Yeah,
story, just the campaign that you all have put together, and just like the
sure.
list of resources, which is so extensive. So thank you.
Yeah.